What's up, Liron here, and today I'm going to share with you some larger paintings that I haven't gotten the chance to share here on YouTube. What's up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. As I mentioned today, I want to show you these several larger paintings, okay? These are ones that I worked on a little more slowly. I took my time with them, you know, off camera when I don't record. I usually devote that time to working on larger pieces that require more concentration. And in my mind, the final result I aspire to is more detailed, more accurate, you know, just that has a better finish. Okay, and when I record, I know that some of my focus is going in that direction, so I'm okay with it, but I know I'm giving up some focus to really share with you. And that's fine, but I hope what I will show you with these ones is a more focused approach, a slower approach. Some of these were done over the course of several days even. And so I think it's a good example of that because you get to see a lot of the quicker work, okay? So without further ado, let's change the angle and take a look at these. Okay, so let's start with the one that I personally like the most. These are all, quarter sheet, okay? I do have one, as I mentioned, I want to show you that's half a sheet that I really like, which means it's going to be this big. So yeah, let me know if this background works for you, like the cutting board. I find that it's really useful for that. So this is the first scene, and I did this one on location. I was out there painting, and I think this one took a few good hours. The light has shifted by the time I finished this. Now, it's funny because technically speaking, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best one. There are quite a lot of mistakes, but there are a few things that work really well for me with this one. And the first is the color selection. I don't know why or how, but it turned out just the way I wanted it to. And the second was just these highlights that are spread across the painting make it look really well lit. And I really like that. I like the composition as well. So what I'm going to do is zoom in a bit so you can better see the details, and we're going to go over them. So now we're looking at it significantly more zoomed in, and I don't know if you can see all of the colors and the variety really well, but I will crank up the saturation of this because I can see that it looks better in real life. So there's a lot of yellows here and the reds. The way I approached this wash, I think, was very clever. I did make some mistakes, like this is too dark and this is not dark enough. You see these areas here. So there's a lot to correct, but again, we need to take into consideration this was done on location, and this is always a big challenge. So I'm really proud of how this turned out. One of my favorite parts here is actually the car here. Notice how there's the reds and purples, and then it transitions into a blue, and the contrast here and the light there. I think it just leads to a fantastic effect of a very detailed car. Then we've got this one in the background that's a little more loose, and then this one finally here. And I think it just works really well overall. This part I wasn't sure about, but I put it in last minute. I did plan on putting it in because it was in the scene. There was this tree going around it like that. That I wasn't sure if I wanted to get in, but then I ended up getting it in. When I did, I was like, oh, I ruined everything. But now that I look at it, it actually works well for me. So this is it for this first one. I hope you like it. There's a lot of dabs of, I'm going to hold it up closer to the camera so you can see. There's a lot of dabs of pure paint, like the red here, and again, red here. There's some blue dabs here, very pure color, which I love. And I think this one turned out really nicely. Let's move on to the next one. I'm going to zoom out for you. So for the next one, I thought I'd share a painting that was done inside. Okay, so you can see that the drawing here with the cars is a little more accurate, a little more detailed, and I took my time with it. But the colors aren't realistic. I really tried to push the colorfulness, and you can especially see this here in the shadow in the foreground. And I really like this. Now you can see some pencil lines running here. I'm going to zoom in just a moment, and you'll better see this. But there are a couple of pencil lines running here because I planned for another tree to pop in here because it was there in the scene, but then I decided to not include it. I felt like it wasn't necessary, so I dropped the idea altogether. It could make the composition a bit cheaper, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. It could be a little better with this one here. Not sure, but I decided not to do that. Now let me zoom in a bit and you'll see some of the details of the cars. So what I really like about this one is I kind of got lucky with the color selection. because notice this one's a bit kind of warm gray. There's a lot of yellow in this one and a bit of, it feels almost like sepia or kind of something like that. Then we have a more green dominated car, and finally we have this one that's a bit more purple or violet or pink or whatever, and then a yellow. So this transition is very interesting in my opinion. I love the way it turned out. I love how this car is a bit more red and blue and I guess a bit purple. I like the balance here. Notice the simplification on the details, the rooftops of the cars. They just turn into this thin stripe of light. I'm going to show it to you more up close. You can see it here. And I think I really like the way it turned out. Let me show you the kind of skyline, if you will. These buildings were, this one was a lot of improvisation. You can see I added a lot of dry brush details. Makes it a bit more stylized, I guess, and not as realistic. And not striving even to be realistic, but still I love that. This palm tree was much lighter than the background, and hopefully that effect comes through. A lot of simplification here. You can try to blend the edges just into the distance, and a part that I really love about this one, perhaps arguably a little too large, is the foreground shadow coming from the tree. I love how I pushed the variety on purpose there. I thought, what would happen if I really pushed the color variety? And I did, and I'm pleased with the result. I think it could have been a little darker. Overall, if you look at this painting, it's not as dark. It's not really dominated by dark colors. It took me a while to grab the paper for some reason, but in any case, it's not that dominated by dark colors. It's fairly light, especially compared to this one, which is very dark. But still, I love this one. Let me zoom out a bit. And I also think there's a good simplification here on the buildings in general. The windows are very light, and I didn't mess around too much with it. There's some details here. Who knows what it is, but I saw it there, so I put it in there. Again, this was done inside based on photo, and you can see the difference in the results. It may lack a bit of spontaneity, but it makes up for it in organization and I guess deliberateness, if that's even a word. So now let's move on to the next one. And this one, again, was done on location. Now, the funny story about this painting is, as I was working on it, I was like, this is a piece of crap. I didn't like it at all. But then when I took it inside, I was like, this is actually really good. And there are ways to improve it. Like, I could add a bit of a darker shadow here. Overall, the values are what makes this one work, and it does work, and the feedback I got also on Instagram was very positive of this one. By the way, sorry if the camera is a little shaky. It's on the table right now, so if I touch something it moves a bit. My apologies. But I really love the way the rooftops ended up. This line here, very accurate drawing relative to a painting done on location that are always a challenge. Even the drawing stage is a bit challenging. So yeah. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see some more of the details, and we'll start as always from the top. I love the way, just the shapes of the rooftops, and I like how some of the pencil line is showing. I really like that look. I don't care about that at all. There are some, simple windows here. I guess it lacks a bit in detail, but it does make up for it in sense of light, I guess. The cars here, it was a big challenge. For some reason, it was really hot, and there was a lot of flies and mosquitoes, and because it was done outside, it was just, I remember it was a nightmare to work on, but I did enjoy it. I actually recorded the entire the process, but I didn't get all of it because I ran out of battery, as always, in my iPhone. So I have some of it, and I was hesitant to share it because it's partial, but I decided to share it. Notice this beautiful yellow done wet in wet, and the red here. I love that. So I decided I do want to share the full one of this the process as well. Even though it's partial, I think there's a lot to learn from the initial wash and maybe some of the shadowy stages. I love that sliver of light here on the side of the building. I think it works really well. So in any case, I hope to share some of the larger paintings with you as well. I just forgot that I don't have them here with me, and I just left them at my parents' place for now because I submitted them to a watercolor competition. So we'll see about that. I just wanted them to be kept for like safekeep there. But in any case, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. I will share some more. Let me know if you want to see more of these, and I'm gonna change the angle and we're gonna wrap up this video properly. Oh, and a few moments before we do that, I just remembered remember that I have this painting I finished. Again, if you've been following me on Instagram, you saw it there. I'm really pleased with this one. I love it. So I remember that it still has the tape on, and everyone asks me to show when I remove the tape, so we're going to do it live. I haven't even signed this one. I'm going to sign it later on, but let's remove the tape here. Hopefully it's not too shaky, and you can see how a beautiful frame is naturally created. This one dried for a few days, so now it's not buckled at all, it flattened, and this is an advice I always say: wait a bit before you remove the tape to allow the painting to unbuckle, because once the paper dries a bit, it stretches back into its shape, and you get this beautiful result that's, I think, easier to frame and will have less of a waviness to it. So last one, and hopefully you enjoyed seeing this as well. And this painting, I'm really, again, pleased with this one. I haven't reviewed it, and I don't want to make this video too long, but I really like the way it turned out. Lots of colors, as I like cars, as I always like them. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this one, and now we can properly wrap it up. So this is it. I really hope you enjoyed this video and seeing the more detailed, you know, I guess more accurate, slow-paced paintings. I hope this gives you a better perspective on the kind of work that I do off camera. A lot of these, again, I shared on social media, on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, but not here on YouTube, and I think it's just a good example of the other types of work I do. You can see that there is, I think, a distinct style in how I approach doing these, and of course there's a lot of cars in these. I think I just, you know, from what I discovered is that I love the colorful scenes. I love city, urban scenes with lots of cars and buildings and sometimes people, and that's kind of the thing that I naturally gravitated towards, and so there wasn't really, I wasn't forcing myself to do this. This is really what I enjoy the most. So I hope you enjoyed this one and getting a window into the more in-depth works. I do want to share with you, I have at least 3 or 4 other works that are really large. Some of them are larger than these ones, that I put in even more effort. Okay, like I have a painting that took 2 weeks. I do want to share all of these hopefully soon. Okay, I will keep you updated on that. Let me know if this is something you want to see in a comment below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again in another one real soon.